You know, I thought we were pretty robust in the first half, a bit too much robust actually. Didn't. A couple of opportunities missed, I thought, in the first half, but solid, you know, positive. And then came out after half time. I thought we were really good. Looked really sharp, looked full of energy. But then we have an error from kick-off, and to use one of Jamie Jones's phrases, which he's just been talking about in the dressing room, is that we went into a bit of a tailspin. And then, without sounding too disrespectful to Widnes, but it's true, it's the nature of the game that we allowed them to run stronger and be big and look athletic when they ran, because we couldn't get hold of the game. Which has happened for the previous 4 years that we've been here. It's a very similar game, Groundhog Day. But that said, we won and showed enough effort there to get the game.
Why do you think that pattern seems to follow every time you come in? Is it just coincidence, or is there something underlying there?
No, I don't know. I think you'd probably have to ask Widnes that, but you know, there's some poor patches in games, and it's an interesting one that every time we've been here, we haven't been poor from start to finish. We have some really purple patches during games and look like we're well in control. And then whether it be an error or a penalty conceded, we seem to go into a bit of a tailspin, which happened there in the second half. And we was on the cusp of putting 30 more points against Widnes. I thought you know, I thought our strength of carry today was very good, and I thought our strength of tackle was back to somewhere where it's been for some parts of the year, and I thought we were just ready to open up there, but we didn't, and I think Adam Cuthbertson dropped the ball from kick-off, you know, which is not on his own there. You know, there's some other players make an error, but I'll just single that one out and describe that as a momentum changing error. There's just nothing in it other than a soft carry, a soft carry of the ball, a soft grip that just lacked concentration. And on this occasion, it was Adam Cuthbertson, and you know, in previous games we've had other people making similar errors.
That said, you use the word, well, the phrase tailspin. The fact that you've still come away with the win and dealt with a lot on your own line, is that one of the major positives of that second half? Well,
Widnes aren't a poor team, and Widnes, I've been talking to Dennis Betts before, hasn't it? I thought he summed his team up pretty accurately in that they're not that far off. They just keep getting nipped in games, and you know, they've got a few L's next to their previous fixtures, what could be W's. So we're not playing a team who's completely out of sorts, and it didn't take much for them to be invited back into it. And there were some moments there where it got a bit scary, probably for the last 15 minutes of the game. But yeah, sometimes as a young group, which we are, you know, going through this moment where we're the next group of men coming forward, you have these games, you remember these games, remember the losses, but you remember the tight wins as well, where everybody's frustrated and everybody thinks we should have done more and been better, but we weren't, and there's a group of frustrated men in there. But then when you calm down, you think, well, look, we won, we're in the bag for the next round, and we look forward to next week.
How encouraging is it that there is that frustration, and not the satisfaction that you've just come away with, but the frustration that it wasn't maybe as emphatic as it could have been?
Yeah, part of my job is the education of the group, not just about how to catch and grip and tackle and all that. Is going through these periods. You know, is educating the group, and I can't educate them with a whiteboard. We've got to go through the experiences together until, you know, that last generation, in inverted commas, in speech marks, you know, they went through some incredible experience together. You know, some rough ones as well, right at the start, before they all became steely. You know, and before they all become you know, a tougher team. So, you know, some of these experiences we're going through so far this year, while it's not great, it can be very healthy for you. We're just going to make sure it's not at the expense of the cup itself or you know, top four.
Carl Ablett went down with an injury that looked quite serious. What's the latest on him and any other injury points?
The latest on him is that he's done something to his ankle, but I don't think it's long term. It's not as bad as Brad Singleton's, although that doesn't mean to say that Carl might be out. He could be still out for about a month. So we'll have a see at that. We'll see over the next 2 or 3 days. He may rock up and he may be great, but likely it is that he'll miss next week. Single, as you know, has broke his thumb, and Rhino had a slight dislocation of his shoulder. Apparently Ryan Hall used to dislocate his shoulder as a kid for a party trick, so he told me. So throwing that into the mix with doing the Rubik's Cube blindfolded and mathematically explaining the mathematical equation of coincidence, you can throw that into his bag of talents as well. And now he's paid for it because his shoulders come out all the time apparently, which I've just found that out. So he could be available next week, Rhino.
Probably not the wisest thing of his life to purposely dislocate his shoulder.
Well, you say wise. I mean, I wouldn't use that word with Ryan. I don't think it's. I wouldn't describe him as wise or unwise, but deep, spiritual, and complex, I'd say.
Look like you picked an injury up of your own.
Yeah, I was opening a tin of tuna, and it attacked me. I've sellotaped my finger actually came off, and I sellotaped it back on.
So of all the rugby games you've had, all the tough battles, you lost the battle to a tin of tuna.
Yeah, I lost a finger to it. We've gone off track, haven't we?
Some brilliant last-ditch tackles from Golding and Walker tonight.
Which pretty much sealed the game. Our attack didn't. Pretty much sealed the game, and I thought there was a couple of soft tries as well. Some moments where, you know, we're a bit at 6s and 7s. The lead up to those soft moments was erratic, so it usually is. But yeah, certainly Golding's chase back try there. You know, that's as good as it gets. And Jack Walker late in the game there, as they ran round Nathaniel Petereau, you know, to come up with that tackle there, nearly killed himself doing it, but saved the game for us.
A few times Richie Myler running on the last as well. Was that part of the plan?
Run the ball on the last, probably. You know, I used to have a dog called Bullseye. He was little Jack Russell, and he would fight everything that moved, and I mean everything. And I had to sit him down one day and said, "Look, you're only a Jack Russell. Stop fighting dogs twice the size of you, 3 times the size of you." He never listened. And I think Richie Myler, I'm going to start calling him Bullseye, because I understand you want your halfbacks every now and again to run it, but none of the biggest men on the field, and not when the three of them stood shoulder to shoulder. So I think a bit of bravado got in the way of smarts there today for him.
A word on Widnes, Brian. Dennis obviously does a good job under tough circumstances, but there's plenty of apathy when the fan base has seen the crowd tonight. How much sympathy do you have with him at the minute?
I don't know there've been many coaches qualified to comment on it, but I am, because I was at London for 5 years, and it's tough. It's hard yards. You know, you're under resourced. Recruitment's hard, and the wins, they seem hard to come by. And it would seem that a bounce of the ball or a couple of refereeing decisions, they seem it's against you. You know, I think Dennis does a great job in stabilising the group. They look a confident group, and the place has a bit of class about it. Part to do with the way Dennis conducts himself, whether he wins or he loses. You know, that's not to be sniffed at. You know, and from the fans' point of view, it's hard. I get they want to see the team win, but that's the quality of the fan. Is to sit there through the tough times as well, isn't it? And they might say, well, we've been doing that. But these things don't turn around over 1 or 2 seasons. You know, you build clubs up. You know, it does take time.
Tonight, good preparation for Magic.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be a single soul again.
Yeah. That'll be an interesting one here, yeah, for sure. We'll. One thing is, we'll need to be better. That level of performance, well, we're not. Just as a group, we need to be better. We're not where we need to be. But at the same time, at some moments we look like we don't train together. But then on some moments, which is like us, we can be unstoppable as well. Those unstoppable moments have just been few and far between in recent weeks. But you know, we chew through these sticky periods, and we're still in this sticky patch here. It'll open up for us soon, and we'll hit a purple patch soon, I'm sure.
Brian, Michelin got injured late on. It looked like, is that anything significant?
No, he just picked. I think it was cramp. I'm going to have to learn, you know, the education of these young players. If you stay down that long, you're going to be dead. You can't get up and run and get back in the line after staying down for that long. So Lazarus came back to life and got back in the defensive line. I thought he was good, Mick, tonight. I thought he's some really strong carries. He's an athlete, but he can defend. Mick, I've been saying it for a few weeks now. He can defend those tough moments as well. So I'll find out how his cramp is.
And that's his first start, so that's sort of another progression.
He was nervous as well. Yeah, he wanted to know whether he had to do anything different. Was there anything different expected of him? And my tip to him was, no, just you keep serving up what you've been doing, and which he did. I thought he was very strong indeed. And sometimes when the game gets quick, for big men that way, I think he weighed about 115 kilos or something, for big men, as the ball goes away from you and it gets turned back in, it's really hard for a big man to get his feet right and get his shoulders right without concealing. All big men can just throw themselves at the tackle, but that equals a penalty. You know, to get some of the technique right about how to defend, you've got to have about 100 games under your belt before you're really good at that type of stuff. Mick seems to have some awareness of that early, for a bloke who's didn't play it as a kid as well, played the sport as a kid. So it's a really encouraging sign for him. Again, you know, I hark back to the bigger point, the broader point I'm making, that we're going through some experiences which is great for us, although it's tough at the time. And he'll learn from this, Mick, no doubt.